Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Learning Guild. Here we have DevLearn, a demo day online. And today our session is with Jamie McDonald, Not Just Fun and Games, Why the Training Arcade is Built for Business Impact. Jamie McDonald is the EVP of Customer Success at ELB Learning, and she's going to take us on a journey of that. So please start sharing when you're ready, Jamie.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks, everybody. Nice to be here with you. Let me just do a quick share. Okay, Karen, are you seeing my screen okay?
Yes, I am. You want to hide that. There you go. Very good.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, well, everyone, thanks so much for joining. I hope this is going to be a really fun session and informative for you. I'm Jamie McDonald. Like Karen said, I have been with ELB Learning for the past 9 years, and I have been around the Training Arcade platform that I'm about to show you since the date it launched back in 2017. So what the Training Arcade is, for starters, is a games and gamification platform. The idea behind us building this platform was to allow companies to be able to build their own games quickly and deploy those games anywhere your learners are and to integrate it with any other systems that you have. So there's kind of two parts to our platform. One is the part that we call the game builder, which is essentially a library of 12 different pre-built games. I really hate to call them templates because they are very polished games. The one thing that they're missing is your content. And the idea is that anybody can quickly populate these games with your own content. That content can be your questions, answers, it could be feedback, it could be images, videos, anything that you want to put into the games themselves. And then when it comes to deploying the games, you have a lot of flexibility. So this is a web-based platform, but it's also a SCORM compliant platform. So if you want to download a game as a SCORM package and load that into your LMS, that's a very popular way to get games out to your learning audience. If you want to email a simple URL link to the game via an email or something, you can do that. You can use QR codes on your live trainings. You can embed games directly into your storyline courses or Lector or whatever tools that you're using to build out your course authoring. You can also iframe games into internal web portals. So there's tons of flexibility. It's a platform that supports global companies. So it is available in 20 languages. And one of the biggest benefits to the games for you is that I really like to say games do three things. One is they're very engaging and fun. So different than a quiz or an assessment, they get people really excited to play. The other thing they do is they allow people to fail safely. So if they don't do well, there's a good chance that somebody, because they had an enjoyable experience with the first time they played a game, there's a good chance if they don't like their score or their position on the leaderboard, that they may hit play again and play a game a second time or a third time. And by virtue of that replayability factor and them spending more time with your content, that is going to drive home the information, hopefully into their long-term memory and increase retention. The other great things that games do is, of course, drive levels of competition with leaderboards and all that. But for your sake, it really comes down to the data. Our games capture a lot of rich information, more so than what SCORM captures. So if you put a game in your LMS, for example, it's going to report automatically high score level of completion. Our games capture way more than that. So you're going to know exactly when people played and how long it took them and how many times they played and which questions in particular they got right or they got wrong. And it's going to also allow you to see the game data in aggregate. So if you had 100 people playing the game and let's say 90 of them got a question wrong, that's going to shine a light on where there might be like a red flag and maybe too many people are missing a question for whatever reason. It could be perhaps the way the question was worded or the course was written or the trainer explained the information. So the data is a really key component to our platform. Now, before I go into too much detail on the games, I also want to show you another layer to the platform. Currently, there's 11 games. There is a brand new game called Category Quest that is coming out on Monday. So we're really excited about that. If any of you have ever played a game called the board game Trivial Pursuit, it's similar in nature where you're going to be able to go around an actual virtual board and you're going to have categories and people are going to be able to, answer a question correctly and collect that category until they've collected one or more in each of the categories. So just know that's coming out on Monday. Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, those are two games where our company is the only company who has the official licensed IP. So there are, other knockoff games you might see trying to use those brand names, but ours is the official one. We built those games in partnership with Sony and Jeopardy Productions. Then they were designed to look and feel and play very much like the TV shows that you're all used to. So before I show you, what these games look like, and if there's time, I'll go into that. I want to get to the other part of our platform, which is the part that we call gamification. This is called arcades. Now, the difference between a game and gamification is that a game is really the vehicle for the learning, right? When somebody's immersed in a game experience, they're very focused on the task at hand and answering questions, and they can't really do anything else. Gamification is more about the motivation. How do you get learners excited to want to learn? How do you get them to keep coming back and spending more time with your material? And you do that by rewarding them. And typically some of the things that you would reward them with are points and badges and prizes and leaderboards and all that good stuff. And within our arcades platform, we have all of that built in and more. So this is an example of what we call an arcade. But really what this is, to make it really simple, is think about this as a gamified curriculum. So let's say, for example, I'll use new hire training. I imagine many people on the call probably have to go through new hire training. So let's imagine that you have just hired 50 new people or 100 or 200 people, whatever the case might be. And in that first month of the learner's job, they have to go through a lot of material, right? You're probably giving them some courses to take, some videos to watch, links to websites to review, PDFs, games to play, and other things. Well, what you could do is, instead of putting each of those things into your own LMS kind of as piecemeal, you could drop all of those different media formats into an arcade. So each of these tiles represents a different learning activity. So a lot of these are games, but let's pretend that this was like a storyline course, and this was a RISE course, and this was a game, and this was a video, and this was a PDF. You could put all of that content that you're used to giving to your learners and bake it into this one arcade experience. And then that way, every time somebody comes into the arcade and they play a game or watch a video or take a course or do any of the things you want them to do, they're going to get rewarded for that. And what we mean by that is, the more they do and the better they do, they're going to start to earn experience points, or XP. So this is the learner view I'm showing you. You could see, pretend I'm, Jamie McDonald. I'm one of your employees. I'm one of your learners. So I could see over here my name, what level I've achieved so far, my percent of progress across all the content, how many experience points I've earned, games played. I'll explain to you what challenge is all about. That's really cool. And then different achievements that I can earn. So the goal is that as they come in here and they continue to spend time with your content, they're going to continue to get rewarded. And that's really important. Now, over here on the right is what we call the global leaderboard. The global leaderboard is based on the overall amount of XP that the learner is earning across all the activities in here. So it's really kind of judging them on a leaderboard against all of their peers, all the other people that were invited to this arcade, by kind of accumulating it based on those points. Now, in addition to XP and leaderboards, we have something called achievements. So these are different things people can collect over time. For example, the first time they come in and play a solo game, they earn the rookie. Or maybe they log in 2 days in a row and they earn the start of their journey. Or maybe they earn the challenger. So the challenger is what I was talking about before. That's a really fun way for one learner to challenge another learner to a one-on-one game battle. So let's say, for example, I click on this Wheel of Fortune game. Well, you can see that I've already played it. So it's showing me as a learner that I've achieved this high score. I got 100% accuracy. I'm second place on this leaderboard here. Now, let's say I wanted to be Julie. She's in first place. I could hit play and the game would launch and I would try to beat her score. But what if I wanted to challenge somebody to play in a one-on-one battle against me? Then I would hit challenge, and all of the names of the people who were invited to this particular arcade would show up here. So I can either scroll through and pick someone, or I can type in their name. So let's say Jen's on the call. Let's say I click on Jennifer Hassel. I click on Jen's name, I hit play, and what happens then is that this Wheel of Fortune game is going to launch. It's still going to be an asynchronous experience where I'm playing this game by myself, but Jen will get a notification that she's been challenged. So I won't play this for you now, but normally what I would do is I would hit start, I'd play through the whole game, and I'd try to get the best score I could get. Now you'll see that it says pending, that means that Jen has been notified that I've challenged her. And the notifications can either come via email, they can come via a notification pop-up that comes up here, or they can come via a battle tile that appears down here. So this is another example of a challenge where Katie challenged me to this diversity in the workplace trivia game. And you could see I know what her score is because she's already played, but I haven't played her back yet. So whenever I feel like it's time for me to play her back, I would hit start and I would play by myself and try to beat her score. And then once both people have played, they'll be notified who won the battle. So challenges are a really fun way to get kind of that level of social interaction happening, even though these are asynchronous experiences. And one thing I forgot to mention before is you might be thinking, well, how do people get access to this arcade? So this can also be SCORM wrapped. So if you have an LMS and you want this arcade to live inside your LMS as an activity, you can just download this whole arcade as one SCORM file and load that into your LMS and assign it to people. Even if you have your storyline courses and your PDFs and your games and videos and all those other things in here, that doesn't matter, because what you would do is you would take those media formats, put them into the arcade first, then SCORM wrap this as one file and put it in your LMS. So that's one option for giving people access. Another is single sign-on. So single games and arcades can be available to learners via SSO if that's something your company would want to set up. Another option is, let's say you don't have an LMS or you don't want to use your LMS for this, then you can also give people access to this via direct registration, where you simply send out an invite through the back end of the system. You load in a bunch of email addresses of who you want to invite, and then it'll send out an email invite to them, and then they can create their own login. So that's how people access it. Now, another really great aspect of this platform is what we call journeys and missions. This is a great way for you to take the content that you want people to experience, but kind of force them to experience it in the order that makes the most sense, the most digestible for them. So this particular mountain theme happens to have 8 stages going up from the bottom to the top of the mountain. You could build it to only have 2 stages or 3 or 4 or whatever you want at a max of 8. But that doesn't mean you can't have another journey with more stages. Now, these are checked off because it represents the fact that I've already done these. And you could see if I wanted to replay the whole thing, I could. If you're a learner coming in here for the very first time, instead of seeing check marks here, you would see a lock symbol. That means that this is a gated learning experience and they cannot proceed up the mountain until they've done the activities in stage 1. Now, stage 1 represents an opportunity for you to take a bunch of different activities and group them together, and you can kind of label what you want this first stage of activities to be called. Maybe it's, welcome to our company, or introductions, or, sales training 101, or whatever you want it to be. And you can put as many activities into the stage as you want, but they will have to experience these activities in a particular order. Now, again, you see check marks on here because I've already done them. But let's say, for example, you come in here for the first time, these would all be grayed out except for the first one, which means they can't jump around. They have to do them in the order you want them to. So if I click on select, it'll launch my first activity. Now, this is just a short PDF on, a little background on who ELB Learning is. But let's say this was an important PDF that you needed them to review before they move on to the next activity. Then you could load it in and you can see this looks like any old PDF, right? They even have the opportunity to download it if they want from this arcade. Once they've reviewed this first activity, which is a PDF, they can then go back and they'll get a little check mark that activity's been completed. And then they'll be able to move on to activity 2. In this case, it happens to be a video. And when it comes to loading videos into our arcades, it can be an MP4 file, it can be a Vimeo link, a YouTube link, whatever you want it to be. I won't play this whole video for you, but I just want to show you that you can load in videos. Once they've completed that, which is watching the video, then they can perhaps open up a game. So while I'm here, I'll just quickly show you what Jeopardy is all about. So like I mentioned before, our Jeopardy game was designed to look and feel and play just like the TV show. With all of our games, there is an opening section before the game begins for you to message the learner, right? It could say something like, hey, welcome to our team. We're so happy that you joined blah, blah, blah company. This game is going to give you a little bit of insight into who we are, whatever it is you want to say. Or maybe it's, now that we've completed such and such training, we want to check your knowledge and see how you do, whatever, right? So that's customizable. Then when the game begins, this is actually taken from the actual set of Jeopardy in Culver City, California. But you'll see in a second that this game board has 4 categories. You can customize the names of the categories, and you can have anywhere from 2 up to 6 categories, and you can customize how many questions you have under each category between 2 and 5. So let's say, for example, I click on music for 200. Well, if you wanted to show a visual clue or some sort of image or a video before the question, it could look something like this. You know, again, if it was a video, you would just hit play and watch the video, and then it goes away, and then the question would pop up, and then the learner would be able to answer that question either in multiple choice format or a text input where they write in the response. These red bars signify the timer, and of course, all the games you build, you can set the timer that you want. So let's say I pick Rainbow Star. Nope, I was not right. So I got feedback, you know, saying sorry. And by the way, you will hear Johnny Gilbert, the guy from TV that says, "This is Jeopardy." He voices our game too. So he'll you know, say like, "I'm sorry," or "That's correct," you know, throughout the game. So this is, you can give feedback that's different for people who get it right versus people who get it wrong. And if you want to provide what we call advanced feedback, which is showing even more context, rationale, or additional information after the question, but about the previous question, you can do that like this. It could be more images, it could be videos, it could be text boxes, and so forth. So I won't keep going on Jeopardy. Oh, actually, one more thing I do want to say is many of our customers like to use these games in live settings. And what I mean by that is on your Zoom calls or on your Teams calls or in person. It could be a tiny classroom. It could be a massive, you know, auditorium with, you know, hundreds of people, thousands of people. You can play live multiplayer games that are run by a host, very similar to the TV show where, you know, you pick someone or trainer or someone on your team who's going to kind of be that Alex Trebek host role who's facilitating the game. The way it works is if you're on a Zoom call, for example, they would drop the link to the game in the chat feature of Zoom. And they would say, "Okay, everyone, we're about to play a game. Please click the link I put in the chat." And then it opens up the game on their device. Or they can have a QR code for people to scan so they can play on a different device, or if they're, you know, live in audience. And then what happens is once the game begins, the host controls the pace of the game. And the host can call on different people to pick questions. The host can see every response that people make so they know exactly who got it right and who got it wrong. They know if it tallies the results, they'll know like, "Oh my gosh, wow, like 98% of you got this right. Great, let's move on." Or, "Sorry, you know, too many of you got this wrong. Let's talk about it and fix it before we move on to the next question." So using games for live meetings is a fantastic way to do that. So just to wrap this up, you can do these activities in whatever order. If the person, you know, doesn't have enough time to finish it, they can come back later and it'll, you know, move them along wherever they left off previously. But once they do finish with the activities in here, it will then unlock the next round, which could be called something else and be a totally different group of activities. And again, the activities in here can be your SCORM files. They can be XAPI files. They can be videos. They can be images, games, web links, anything you want them to be. Now, a couple more things. We have 10 more minutes. So a couple more things I want to mention about this platform is the ability for you to also create team game competitions. This is something a lot of our subscribers love to do. So what you would do if you wanted to do a team game competition is you would preset the game as a team game. So for example, if I click on this detective game, the first thing a learner will see if they haven't been in here before is the drop-down menu with the team names. You can name these teams whatever you want. You could have as many teams as you like. Assuming the learners know what team they're on, they pick their team. Now, I'm not based in Boston, but let's just say I am. I'll pretend. So I click on Boston, I hit next. And before I hit play, and no one's played this, so that's why you're not seeing anything happening on here other than me. But let's say like 20 or 30 or 50 people had been here before I came here. I would be able to see a snapshot of how things are going so far. So there would be two leaderboards. One would be showing me the leaderboard for the teams. How's Boston shaping up against, you know, those other four teams? And the other one would show me all the rest of the people on my Boston team and where they are on the leaderboard. Then I would hit play and this detective game would launch. I would click start. And again, it's asynchronous. My teammates are not playing with me at this time. I'm going to go through this game by myself, get the best score I can possibly get, and hope that it helps my team. So after I play, I'll be able to go back and see, oh my gosh, did I help my team jump ahead of the last team and so forth. So that's another great way to have, you know, some social interactions, some team game competitions, depending on how you structure, you know, picture, you know, interdepartments or colors or cities or countries can compete against each other. Another thing I want to mention is prizes. So if you wanted to reward people extrinsically, you have the option of turning on this prizing feature. This allows you to decide how many levels do you want to give a prize at, right? You might just have 3 levels or 4, and the prizes can be customizable. This is just going to be an open text field in the back end that you would type in what you want the prize to be. It doesn't have to be monetary. It could be like your, you know, a water bottle with your company's logo on it, or half a day off, or lunch with the boss, or whatever. But the idea is that every time somebody advances to that next level, and remember, they do that by earning more points by doing more activities in here, which helps them level up over time. And so every time they kind of advance, you'll see I'm at level 13. When I get to level 15, I'm eligible to get a $50 gift card in this case. And there's only 4 left, which maybe we'll put a fire under me to get things going. So just in summary, the games themselves are available to be downloaded as single games and deployed all the different ways I mentioned before, SSO, SCORM, web links, etc. But you also have the option of building out an arcade that features games and all the other, content you normally would have somebody, create. Now, once a lot of you on the call might be thinking, well, I'm an author. How does this work? Well, let me show you. So the back end looks like this. And within the back end, if your company subscribes to both the games and arcades, then you would be able to build both the games and the arcades from here. So to build a game, you would simply click on New Game. You pick the game you're going to build, let's say Jump, for example, and then you would go about building it. There's 2 parts to building every game. So the first part will take you all of a couple of minutes. That's really just, saying, what do I want to call this? Let's call this, Wednesday training game, for lack of something more creative. I didn't even spell that right. And then as soon as you name it, it'll populate into the link. You can see we've got these 20 languages available. You can set your timers. You can decide if you want to require a certain percent to pass if you want. You can set start and end dates for when the games can be available. This is where you would put in some messaging at the beginning of the game for learners to see. And then when it comes to registration, you can decide on a game-by-game basis, do I want it to be through SSO? Do I want to, require registration before playing? And if you do require them registering, then you can decide, what do I want? Maybe I want first name and last name and email, or maybe I want to customize some fields and say, I also need you to type in like your city or your country or your department or whatever. And then you can decide if you want to show the leaderboard after each game, which you don't have to, but you can. The second part is adding in your content. So this is where the fun comes in. If you want to use AI to generate your questions rather than you generating them yourselves, 3 of the games currently have the AI generator, and more games will have this coming soon. But all you would do is you'd click generate AI questions. You type in your prompt here. You decide, how many of each, do you want the AI to come up with? And then you would hit generate questions, and then voila, it will give it a minute. It will bring up your questions for you. And then once you read through all the questions that AI came up with, you can click on which ones you like, and the other ones you can say regenerate, and it will, come up with new versions of those questions. Then once you're happy, boom, your game is built. If you don't want to use AI, and you don't have to, and you can also shut this feature off if your company's against it, you can then click and do it manually. So you would have, say, add question, and then you would determine, well, what kind of question do I want it to be? There's a bunch of different options. And do you want to maybe put an image or a video or an audio clip next to the question? And let's say you have a cheat sheet, like a spreadsheet with your questions on it. You can just copy and paste, load that question in. We will be, in the very near future, adding in a, what's it called? Like a question upload option from a spreadsheet, but that doesn't exist just yet. It's coming. So you would type your question in here, copy and paste it. You can decide, how much time you want to give them. You can put in, depending on the game, up to 2 to 5 answers. And then over here, you would just click which one is the correct answer. You can also choose to randomize them or not. So if they play the game a second time, or maybe the question pops up again because they got it wrong the first time, it comes back around the second time, the answers can be jumbled in a different order. If you want to give feedback, you can put in feedback if it's correct or feedback if it's incorrect. And then once you're done with question number 1, just hit save and then add question, and you're going to go through that all again. I would say on average, if you're building like a 10 or 20 question game, you could build a game out in like 20 or 30 minutes. It's a very, very user-friendly, easy tool. You don't need to know how to code or program or anything like that. We do have a very robust help section that will help you go through, kind of like it has like how-to videos and different user guides, and under each game heading, there's, templates and all sorts of stuff to help you get acquainted with using the platform. But it is very, very easy to use. We do offer a 30-day free trial. So if you're interested in that, we can get your hands on it. If you want a deeper demo, like ever with me or another person on our team, we can do that for you too. Now there's only 3 minutes left, so I just want to quickly show you arcades. When you go to build an arcade, I'll just go to one that's already built. Then you simply would, you would have your activities here, and you could see if you want to upload a SCORM file or an XAPI file, then you would just pull that in from your, files on your computer or whatever. If you want to add in something that's not SCORM or XAPI, it could be like a PDF, an image, a video, etc. Then you would do that here. You can also change out the color background and what you want to title it, so that when you look at the dashboard, it can, like, this color can be changed, the text for the image can be changed, and you can also change out what the image looks like. We do have default images for some of our things, but you can change these images to be whatever you want. You could change the color palette of this whole thing. You can put your logo in here. You can make this very branded. And then you also have the option of putting in games. So you would make some games first, then you put your cursor here and you find the game you want to add, right? So let's just say I add, I don't know, add this game. And then as soon as I click add, voila, it's already in the arcade. And then I have some settings I can go to decide, do I want to, turn on head-to-head competitions and leaderboards? Do I want to set start and end dates? Things like that. One thing I'm going to quickly show is the data, because this is a really key component. I'm just going to pull up a game super fast since I know we're running out of time. Now, when you want to look at data for a game, all you have to do is go into the back end and you can click on whatever, type in the name of the game you want. So I'm going to pull up this old game just because I know it has good data. Now you'll notice there's no data here. And that's because the game, the date range defaults to the last 30 days. So you can pick whatever period of time you want to look at data for. So I'm just going to switch this to all time. And now you will see some interesting data, and you can export this into a CSV or Excel file if you want. But if you're looking at the data within the dashboard, you see 3 sections: player trends, which is like how many people played and what were their scores and how much time did it take them and what was the overall accuracy. And then you can go down below to the individual players. So in this case, we only asked for initials, but if you would ask for like first name, last name, email, things like that, you'd have more columns to sort by. If you want to dig into the next 20 and so forth, you can. So now if I sort by total sessions, let's look into this individual person. So whoever this is with the initials SRL, I can see their high score, how many times they played, on average, how long it took them. And this is really cool. So, and granted, this isn't a really old game, but let's just say the first time they played, it took them this long, they got this score, and they only achieved 30% accuracy. So this is where the psyche comes in, where people really always want to try to do well. Well, this person wasn't happy with their score, so they decided to play again a couple of minutes later. They did it faster, they got a better score, and they improved up to 50%. And then they still weren't happy, so they played again and again, right? So if you add this up, in about 7 minutes time, they were able to master the material. And then if you click into questions, you will see exactly question by question, which ones they got wrong, which ones they got right. And when you download the data into a file, you'll get even more detail than what you see on the dashboard. You'll know, like, not just that they got this question wrong, but what incorrect answer did they choose, and you'll get to look at all that good stuff. And then lastly, you've got your aggregate data. So this is where there might be a question that like too many people miss. So it'll shine a light where there might be some issues with the content or why people are not understanding it. There's so much more for me to show you. I didn't even really get to go into, giving you guys a look and feel of the games themselves, but I welcome you all to come ask questions. We can send you sample games. You can come to the ELB website under the training arcade and find more games to play. But I guess I'll end now, Karen, and take questions.
All right, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the questions on the stage and let you answer them. So here we go. Are you seeing that question?
Well, because I'm sharing, I don't see
You're
them.
still
So
not seeing. Okay.
right.
Can you customize the rewards, badges, achievements, and challenges, etc., to reflect business needs?
So we do have, so when it comes to the achievements themselves, at the moment, these aren't customizable, but that is something that's coming. But what you can customize is awards. And I don't know if I have something great to show you here. Awards is something that you can actually, like, for example, if you wanted to say to somebody, when you finish completing the journey, we want to give you the such and such company award. That can be completely custom to whatever award it is that you want to give them. Or you could say, I want to, because when they finish this, I want to award them an extra, 50,000 experience points. So that's completely up to you to customize the awards. The leaderboard itself can't be, so like this leaderboard here, we use an algorithm that determines the experience points people earn by doing different things in here. Like they get different points for different games. They get different points for doing things that aren't games. And so the experience points they're earning are kind of based on the algorithm of the things that they're doing in here. And the better they do, the better the points are. But you can't actually change like what the leaderboard would look like. So hopefully that answered your questions. Some things are customizable, some things are coming, and some things aren't.
Right. Our next, we use Storyline and Rise to produce our courses. Can the game builder integrate with these?
So the game builder itself is the tool that you would use to go build the games. But once you build the games, you would then be able to, like I was mentioning before, let me go into this game for example. Once you're done building the game, in order to get it to live inside of your Rise or Storyline courses, you would click Edit and then Publish, and then you'll see right here it gives you, in this case, in your case, for this question, where you want to embed the game directly into the course, you wouldn't use SCORM. You would just take this game link itself and drop that in as a web object wherever you want it to live inside your course. And you can put multiple games, right? There might be a game after every chapter of your course or whatever. But if you're doing something that's not, like, let's say you want a game to live as a separate activity inside the LMS right after they do the Storyline or Rise course, then in that case, you would just choose one of these SCORM files and download it and then load it in.
All right, thank you for that. What kind of data can we capture in terms of the questions answered, etc., from SCORM? I know you talked about SCORM, but I think they're looking for something specific.
Yeah, so SCORM is limited by typically what your company IT team has set up to capture. So because of that, you typically, like if you download the game as the SCORM package and put it in your LMS, you're typically going to get the system to report whatever your company has set up to report. And that's usually just high score level of completion. However, one thing to note, and I was trying to make this clear earlier, is that our games, because this is a web-based platform, our SCORM packages are actually SCORM wrappers. So it's a little bit different than when you download a Storyline course and you own it forever. This is a subscription service. So every year you can, buy a subscription or buy multiple year subscriptions. So when a learner, if you download a game as a SCORM package and you put it in the LMS, and a learner goes to click the game to launch it from the LMS, what they don't know is that the game is actually going to live in the cloud on our servers. So they're not leaving the LMS, they're not having any different experience than they're used to, but the game is technically hosted in the cloud. And that the benefit of that, there's multiple benefits, but the benefit of that is that the training arcade then can capture all of the question data, individual learners, which questions they got wrong. If a learner played, let's say 3 or 4 or 5 times, you'll be able to look at the data. Oh, well, they got it wrong the first time and the second time, but by the third time they got it right. So you're going to be able to see every single response a learner makes on every single question in every session. And then you're also going to be able to look at it in aggregate. So that's all the data would live in the back end of the training arcade. The same place where your authors will make the games is where the data lives. Separate from, of course, what automatically reports to your LMS, which is, just high score level of completion.
Okay, then let's see. So another question, can the AI question generator use a specific collector of documents or a library as its sole source?
So we use, at the moment, I don't believe that you can load in a document for creating your content. I think it has to just be a prompt, but with the generator being moved over to the rest of the games, I know that there's more things that they're looking to do with that, which hopefully will allow you to upload something. I can't remember, I know this is an open source, but it's a protected, like when you type in your prompt here, it's not going to just pull in any information like a normal chat GPT, but it is an open source AI. So I don't know if I've totally answered that correctly, but happy to look into it a little bit more and get you more specifics.
All right, so they'll let us know. And then the next, if it is iframe, is tracking available on your portal or similar?
Yep. So literally any way you deploy a game, you get the same level of data. So if you choose to iframe it, and so what happens is if you're going to go the route of iframing, so if I go into this game, for example, and I click on publish, if I create my let's say my pixels, it'll automatically pop out this embed code, and then you can use that embed code, give it to your IT team or whoever who's going to put it on your portal or your internal intranet. And when the learner goes to click it, it will be embedded right there. So it's not taking them anywhere else, but the same level of data is collected from people who play this game in this way as it would be for SCORM or links emailed or anything else.
All right. And can we convert scores into a percentage to translate into pass fail?
So we have the ability for you to, yes, we have the ability for you to choose. So let's just say build a trivia game, for example. Down here, when you're building the game, you can decide, do I want to require a percent to pass? So let's say you set this at 90%. If the learner, so it'll be 90% of however many questions you get in there. So
Hello, Alicia.
if the
I
learner
am
does not,
here. Yes. Go ahead and
so,
test your mic.
Karen, just so you know, I'm hearing you.
Sorry about that. So
no,
yeah, go ahead.
okay.
There is another. Can we see the data even if we use SCORM? I'm
Yes.
not sure what. Okay, and then yeah, I figured you answered that one. How do you achieve that level of information? Is it XAPI?
So our platform is XAPI ready. So if your company has an LRS and you want to actually have the additional data points that are captured beyond what our system already captures, then we can set up XAPI for you. We also have API documentation that we can share, that your IT team can look at, that will allow them to say, oh, well, in addition to the typical SCORM data that passes automatically to our LMS, we also want to capture, X, Y, Z. So currently we capture all of the stuff I described, when they played, how long, how many sessions, which questions, all of that stuff, and session by session. But if you want more of that data to actually live not in the training arcade, but in your systems, then you can use API or XAPI, and we can set that up for you.
All right, and then so can we get a demo license? I don't know if that is something that needs
Yep.
to be addressed. Okay.
Yes. So what I would say is either reach out to me, or you can go on the training arcade, or sorry, the ELB Learning website. If I go here, you can click on free trial and you can put in your name and information, and you'll get to somebody who will then set up a demo with you and give you access to the free trial.
Perfect. Where can we see the data that is recorded for reports?
Yep. So that is all in the back end of the same place where you build the games is where the data lives. So if you go into, any particular game, like I think I was showing you earlier, this text trivia game, you just have to type in which game you want to pull the data for. You click the game, you decide what date range you want to look at for the data, and then it'll all pop up here. And then you can choose to click this and download it into a spreadsheet, either CSV or Excel file, or you can look at the data from within the dashboard view here.
All right. And then how can you link the participants to the results doing a live use of the game?
Great. So when you're doing, for example, if you're running, so there's two games that have a live second mode that we call it, right? Your ILT mode or VILT mode. That's Jeopardy and Trivia. So if you're running a live game, either in person or on a Zoom or Teams call, what happens is, so in Jeopardy, for example, at the end of each, so Jeopardy has 3 rounds: Jeopardy, Double Jeopardy, Final Jeopardy, just like the TV show, or you can not have the middle round if you don't want. Essentially what happens is at the end of each question, each person will know if they got that previous question right or wrong. And then at the end of each round, a leaderboard will automatically pop up and show them where they are and where they're ranked against everyone else playing. The host of the game has the ability to show the leaderboard more frequently than that. If they want to show it after every 2 or 3 questions, they can do that too. And what the host sees is accumulation of what's happening. So let's say there's 100 people playing. The host will know exactly how each of those 100 people answered the previous question, what answer they chose, if they got it right or wrong, and how fast they answered. And speed matters. If 10 people got a question right, the one who got it right the fastest will be ranked higher on the leaderboard. So the host will immediately know how things are kind of going as they're running the game. They'll be able to see, wow, the majority of these people are doing really well. Great, let's move on to the next question. Or too many people are struggling with this. Let's not move on to the next question yet. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure everyone understands what the correct answer should be. and then we'll move on. So, and then at the end, when the game's over, if the host, wants to share out a report of the leaderboard or any of the analytics with whoever they want to share it with, they can just export it and send it on. So again, no matter how you use a game, the same level of data will be captured. It just comes down to who you're giving rights to and who you want to see the data. There are three kind of users in our platform. There is what we call here, let me show you this. Ignore these super ones. You wouldn't have these in your account. This is just because I'm in the main domain, but you're going to have these three kind of author seats, if you will. Admins and creators are two types of authors who can make games, but an admin is kind of like the super user, right? They can make games. They can see games built by anybody else. They can see data for all the games. They can decide who they want to be authors and not authors. They can make all the decisions. A creator is a type of author who can also make games, but they will not see games made by anybody else. So if you have a team where you're like, I want to be an admin, but I don't want everyone else to be admins too. I want them to author, but not see each other's things. And for whatever reason you don't want them to, make them creators and they can still build and see data for their own games. A viewer is somebody who cannot make or edit games, but they can view data for games if you give them permission to, and they can also be somebody that is considered an instructor who is assigned to run a game like a Jeopardy or trivia game on a Zoom call, for example. So there's these three different kind of authors will be part of your subscription.
That is fabulous. We've come to the end of our time. I did mention that there is the lounge. There is a table with the logo here for ELB. So make sure if you have additional questions or if your questions didn't get answered, go to the table. There will be a member of ELB there. And I want to thank you all for your prompt and wonderful participation. We'll see you at the next session. Thank you so much, Jamie, and thank
Thanks,
you, ELB
everybody.
Learning.